Hello everyone, let's see if my microphone is on for this first solid ground of 2026. Happy New Year to all of you, even though we are now in February. Look, welcome back to Solid Ground. Welcome back to all of you who are watching this in and around New Zealand and around the world. It's just great to be back with you. I had a great break. In fact, I'm going to share some of those photos with you. Today we'll have obviously a bit of commentary on some of the issues we're facing. It's election year here in New Zealand, but there's also no shortage of cultural and ethical and other things to talk about. But I thought I'd make this first show of the year a little bit lighter, and as I say, sharing just a few photos from the trip, taking your thoughts and questions. But it is just so great to be back on what is actually the 20th year of Family First. You may have seen that little logo. I'll just put it back up briefly. I haven't disappeared. But 20 years Family First has been going. So that's quite remarkable. And great testament, of course, to Bob and all the team. So again, welcome. Lovely to have you all joining me. I'll get to some comments in a moment. And that's actually a good segue, particularly to new viewers and listeners. This is a live show. I'm coming to you live from Auckland. In fact, I'm coming to you live. Where's my picture? Here we go. I'm coming to you live from this treehouse. Obviously, I'm inside it. That's from outside. Literally a podcast in a treehouse, which I think is pretty cool. And it's a live show. So if you have thoughts or comments, or there's questions you want to ask, if there's something burning, if you will, in your mind that you want to ask me, other than my credit card details, get in touch. If you're on the Family First Facebook page or Family First YouTube channel, your comments come live to me here in the show, and they appear just like this. So as we can see, a lot of people, well, you'll begin to see a lot of people just simply saying hello, telling me where they are. But if you want to share anything else, as I say, any questions, get in touch. But to Harrison, good morning, and lovely to have you back on. Can see Mike there, good morning. Foo Dogs Trucking, is it not just a good morning, but a jolly one. To Lynette, lovely to have you, and look, it's lovely to be back. Same to Nigel, we see got Rosie there. Chris and Y Pukarau. I've got to get myself a new screen, actually. As I'm getting slightly older, it's getting harder and harder for me to read on my little screen. Murray here is saying it's morning and wet in Ashburton. It's actually not too bad here in Auckland, I have to say. We've got Darren there. Good morning. Simply Green. Look, how can we have a show without Simply Green? Good morning. Edmund, lovely to have you along. Catherine, look, lots of familiar names and faces. It's just great to have you all here. As I say, a bit of a lighter, easier show this morning, but we're back. That's probably the main thing for everyone to understand. Obviously, Bob is back as well. He had the first day break yesterday, so we're back and rolling, people. Family First is back for 2026, so obviously tune in the mornings if you wish and want to. Know as well that we've got plenty of other shows, and I'm trying to find them here at the moment, but I seem to have lost them. We've got plenty of other shows. I've got more podcasts coming. This was the top one from last year. So as you know, we do a weekly podcast called Family Matters. This was Victoria Sinnis. She used to work for OnlyFans. That sort of, I don't know what you'd even call it, a pornography site. But people, if you will, pornograph themselves. Is that even a verb? Just made one. But she was part of that. She was the agent who would find young women and lure them in. But she had a massive change of heart and conversion, and the chat with her was in and of itself amazing. But she became, as I say, the top podcast of 2025. So let's see what this year brings. I'm just finishing producing the first podcast for this year. Just a reminder too, this is Straight Talk. It's coming on Monday. We're back Monday the 9th of February, which is exciting. Why I'm at the bottom left, on the far left, I don't know. It's a bit confusing to me. Jokes aside, as you can see, an amazing array of people in perspective. So that's next Monday. And of course, political playback. We've got new branding. Bob and I are back from next Thursday. So not this Thursday. We're taking still a little bit more of a break, but Parliament is back. Things are back on. And so we're back, which is brilliant. So as I say, if you have thoughts and questions, let me know. If there's something burning in your mind at the moment as the political year starts or other things, let me know. and I will do my best to answer them. But I said too, I would just share. Well, actually, I'm all over the place. I'm getting back into rhythm. I should have started actually with this, because today is my beautiful wife Rachel's birthday, and it's a significant one. So a very happy birthday to who I think is the most beautiful woman in the world. And we were saying the other day, because we're now in our 10th year of marriage, have known each other for much longer, but been married for 10 years. Marrying her was the best decision of my life and remains so. So a very, very happy birthday to my beautiful wife. She may be listening, I don't know. She might also be getting ready to go to work, but if she is listening, I love you very much, and very much a happy birthday. And it's a just absolutely amazing woman. With some reason, this guy, who's actually looking slightly slimmer than he does today, and I don't know why me, is talking in the third person. But a very, very happy birthday to Rachel, and I can see comments coming through from other viewers and listeners. So happy birthday to her. It's a very, very, big day, big year actually. We're going to be celebrating in different ways. Look, as I say, I'm keeping it fairly light this morning, and I can see a couple of questions coming in related to the US, so I'll see if I can get to those in a moment. But Rachel and I did not quite a month, but let's just call it a month roadie of the South Island, which was pretty cool and amazing. I mean, obviously this summer in New Zealand's been quite challenging. I can think particularly of the Mount. That's Rachel and my second home actually, so absolutely tragic what happened there in other parts of New Zealand. And it's sort of that paradox, is that the right word? And a tension in some ways, because as most of us, if not 99.9% of us, are enjoying summer, we're also very conscious of the tragedy that befell so many people, obviously those who died in that awful landslip at the Mount and elsewhere, but just the lives affected and still affected. So very sad, but we had ourselves a good break, and I have to say one that was needed. This was in the Marlborough Sounds. We drove literally from our home in Auckland, took our own car and drove around, and we were blessed in many ways, because on the days that it counted, it was beautiful. So most of the time it rained, as most of you will know, bucketing away, but we managed to get to the beautiful Marlborough Sounds. This was a day out actually on the way. That's my beautiful birthday wife there, on the Abel Tasman, out on the water. Stunning day. I mean, you just begin to realise, guys, and part of the reason I'm sharing this with you is just how gorgeous and beautiful our country is. And I suppose it was just a reminder to me, and perhaps to everyone here, because often on solid ground, daybreak, a lot of our content in Family First are often reacting to some of the major challenges that we have in society. And I think it's good at times to take a deep breath, and I'm saying this as much to myself, and appreciating just the amazing country that we have, and the systems that we have as well, our democracy, our relative freedoms and so forth. We got to Hokitika, not my best photographic work, but that's that stick sign they have on the beach, saying, strange enough, Hokitika. That was very gloomy and moody there on the west coast. This is in the west coast as well, bucketing down, absolutely bucketing down. Made driving a bit more challenging, but I have to say the waterfalls and everything were spectacular. And this photo here, believe it or not, that's part of the track, just absolutely flooded. This is down by Glenorchy. Again, we're just so blessed. That's all I'm really wanting to say. And I was even lucky enough to get a shot of Mount Cook as we were driving. So yeah, pretty amazing, I have to say, all around. So a great trip, and very grateful to have had the opportunity. So anyway, we should turn to some of the topics du jour, what's on our minds and your minds. I see some questions coming through about what's happening in the United States around ICE and so forth. Might get to that a little bit later if I can. I probably will focus a little bit more on what's happening here in New Zealand, or aspects which impact New Zealand. I don't know about you guys. A lot of what gets reported in America, like ICE, what Trump is doing, and so forth, at one level to politicos is interesting, but doesn't always, if you will, impact here in New Zealand. But I am writing a Substack around some of this, around actually consistency, and I might actually get to that in a moment too. So anyway, I keep getting myself distracted. I saw this, which I thought was quite funny, more on the humour side, and I do actually want to talk about detransitioning, because there's actually been a major law suit and win in the US, which I'll come to. But I saw this yesterday, I've forgotten where, but I just thought it illustrated some of the absurdities which continue within in this case, the supposed trans right movement, where young children are being transitioned. In fact, I'm aware of a case here in New Zealand at the moment that a very, very young child has been effectively transitioned without their parents' knowledge by the school, and I just think that is totally and utterly outrageous. And at Family First, I know Penny at Let Kids Be Kids and others have actively and continue to speak out against this. But I just thought that sums it up perfectly. You wouldn't give your 12-year-old, 10-year-old, 8-year-old, 16-year-old even a tattoo. But the idea of taking them to a gender clinic, as they call it, or affirming care, it's anything but. But I think though it's beginning to break down this sort of trans agenda, if you wanted to quickly call it that. This focus on children, a pedantry really, which is, just quite disturbing. But this case, of all places, in New York, in the United States, so in a highly liberal state, but a now 22-year-old woman has taken her doctors, the surgeon and the psychologist, to court there in New York State and sued them for malpractice, and she won, which is brilliant. And the essence of her case is not around the nature of the reversibility of puberty blockers, for example, or the efficacy of the surgery. She successfully sued them for malpractice because they didn't actually give her the appropriate standard of care. They didn't consult her properly. They didn't inform her properly. My words here, not the courts, but basically the surgeon and psychologist were ideologically captured. And so when she was 16, that's how old she was when she met these supposed medicos, these medical people. They were so ideologically compromised around trans issues, and I would say more than happy to practice and experiment on children, that they transitioned her. In this case, cut both her breasts off, which of course is totally irreversible. Well, actually, it's probably not quite fair that I say that out loud. She'll never get her actual breasts back. They can probably augment them cosmetically, but she's been mutilated and harmed. But she's won her case, which is amazing news, and I suspect this will be the first of many. I think the fraud that is this supposed gender-affirming care is slowly breaking down. You've seen moves here, even in New Zealand. We've obviously had those exceptionally brave voices of Izzy and Zara, the two young women who came and spoke at the Forum on the Family last year, two New Zealand detransitioners. Now we have this young woman, I think Varian is her name if I remember the story correctly, but she's won her case. And interesting, and because we've talked about this before on the podcast and elsewhere, we've written about it too at Family First, like this young girl in the United States, just about all, and particularly girls, presenting with gender dysphoria have an array of other psychological issues. So in her case, she had a number of them, including depression and anxiety. When they get treated, as a Finnish study indicated last year, if you actually address those issues, so a young woman or a man, or boy rather, who's got anxiety, has got stress and so on, treat those rather than the gender dysphoria. But I think what we're seeing in cases like this in the United States is surgeons, psychologists and others in the medical field who remain very happy to mutilate children. And let's just call it what it is. I mean, when you think about it, it's pretty disgusting. And it needs to be called out for what it is. They're mutilating children, they're experimenting on children. It doesn't matter if it's using drugs like puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones, or actually pulling out the scalpel. So this will be the first case of many, and I think the sooner it gets here to New Zealand and we can start suing doctors, the better. It'll be a little bit, because I can see some questions coming through, it'll be a little bit quirkier in New Zealand because we have ACC. It's harder to hold doctors in New Zealand to account, but there are avenues. And so I just hope that these doctors who experiment on children, who effectively abuse children here in New Zealand, take notice of this, because it is coming here in New Zealand. I have no doubts about it. I'm just looking through some of the other comments. I see people are asking me around the ICE case. I don't think I'm going to get onto that today for no other reason than I just don't want to get too distracted by American politics. Darren's asking the thoughts on the Indian trade deal. Look, long and short, the government needs to release the deal so we can read it. I suspect both Winston Peters saying, hey, look, it opens the floodgates to Indians to come and migrate to New Zealand, and also the government saying, well, rather the National Party saying it's not true. They're probably both a little bit right. So we're talking about a free trade agreement which has just been signed with India just before Christmas. It was something that the National Party of the time and this government put high stakes on that they would achieve. So kudos to them for doing that. But having been involved in the foreign affairs and trade space, I must say I'm a little concerned that the desire to get a deal, desperate desire to get the deal, means that the government's probably compromised on a number of things, and one could be around migration. But we don't know the full text yet. We haven't seen it, and I suppose really, Darren, for me, until the government releases it, and it'll be hundreds and hundreds of pages, we won't know. But Winston's a wily old fox, and he knows that migration or immigration has been and is a hot topic for him. So he will play that strongly this year. Of course, it's election year. I think is it November. We have the election November 7th, so that will come around quickly. But Winston will play the immigration card. And look, from my point of view, the best thing, as I said earlier, that the government can do is to release the full text of the agreement. And then we can read it all. Rosie sums up, this is jumping back to the detransitioning aspect. Leave the Kids Alone by Pink Floyd. I think that is absolutely brilliant. Catherine's asking of whether or not homelessness is a problem in the social services, like what she say, hospitals and schools are heaving. I don't think they're all related. I think we have a growing homelessness problem. I mean, even as we travelled around New Zealand, Rachel and I were struck not only just how many homeless we saw, certainly here in Auckland, but also people begging on the street corners and so forth, which is disturbing. I think it's been a slow trend, but it's something, society we have to confront. First and foremost, to help those. I used to work with the homeless actually in King's Cross in Sydney many years ago. I think, firstly, they're human beings and we've got to treat them with dignity, but we've got to try and help them. I think our social services are heaving because we've just underinvested over the years, including into the health sector. And so it's not this current government, it's not even the previous one. It's pretty much government after government. But I will say that the current government, Minister of Health, Simeon Brown there, record levels of investment. But the thing about health, and again, I've worked in the health sector, it's an endless pit. That's all I can say. It's an endless pit of money. No matter what you spend, it's never enough. So, big challenges there. Hey, look, the other thing I thought I'd just quickly end on, and this will actually somewhat play into a podcast. As I say, I've got Family Matters coming back this week. We're actually talking surrogacy, so I don't want to completely mix surrogacy up with IVF. But this was a headline, I think, yesterday. And I actually have dealt with cases here in New Zealand of this when I was a Member of Parliament. In this case, they've mixed up the embryos, and so the couple in the photo have ended up with someone else's child. And kudos to them, they are loving the child. They don't want to give the child back per se, but they are going, hey, look, it's not our biological child. For their sake, the child's sake, and all involved, it would be good to know who the genetic parents are, and they, the couple there, are wanting to know what happened to their IVF child. So it's a very mixed up space. As I say, I've dealt with a very similar case here in New Zealand many years ago. Incredibly complicated, and I suppose that's really the simple message that I'm wanting to get out there, because a lot of people will talk around surrogacy, IVF and so forth. It's not always clear cut and simple. There are massive ethical questions, and quoting Katie Faust, you'll remember her, an American advocate who talks about them before us, putting the child's needs first rather than the parents. And so I think this is a case here where the child is going to find its life slightly confused and complicated because of the decisions of these parents. And look, as I say, they're doing the right thing. I believe trying to find the biological family, trying to understand how this happened. I think it's great that, of course, they love the child. They're not trying to hand the child back, as some do. We say that, particularly in the surrogacy space. But their needs and wants have ultimately driven this. This child's going to have, as I say, a complicated life because of their choices. And I just think approaching family from a traditional point of view doesn't come with these, if you will, man-made complications. So anyway, I just thought I would share that. As I say, there's a podcast incoming that's going to be touching more on the surrogacy side. I think I'm getting that out tomorrow. So guys, I'm going to to leave it there. Just a reminder, as I say, where all our shows are pretty much coming back online. Daybreak is back. I'm back, so we'll be, well, all this week, as I say. The podcast, this is the top one from last year. If you didn't listen to Victoria and me speaking about OnlyFans, I can only but encourage you, because it was really, really fantastic. So political playback's coming back next week. Straight talk next week. My Substack is still going. This is the recent one I've written on Iran, and I've got another one about to drop. Bob is prolific, as we know. He's just actually written an open letter to all the Christian parties. Go over to his Substack, so substack.com, and then look up Bob's name or McBlog. Really, really important what he's written, and he sent it to all the leaders of the various Christian parties. I won't give you spoilers. I won't give you spoilers of why and what his argument is, but I think it is an important one. And finally, a very happy birthday once again to my beautiful wife. Happy birthday, and I just look forward to celebrating with her. I look forward to joining all of you this coming Thursday. That'll be great. Welcome back to Solid Ground. Been good having you with me.